Hello and welcome to this week's edition of the Football Fan Show podcast. Back once again, and I should apologise for last week. So I was feeling a bit rough, so I decided to just have a break. And apologies to you for not giving you your weekly Football Fan Show content. That was definitely on me. My guest this week is Thomas Moore. He is here to chat Swindon Town Football Club. We are also talking about Frank Lampard because, we missed last week's show. We're also talking about the end of the January transfer window. We're talking also briefly at the end of the podcast about the Chelsea women's manager and whether it was a step down, being linked with a rumoured move to manage AFC Wimbledon. So that's all coming up in the podcast. Don't forget to subscribe on whatever podcast provider you are tuned into, or whether you're on YouTube, hit subscribe, hit like, and consider subscribing. Hit the bell icon, because then we can go live. You will be notified when our latest videos go on, and our live streams as well. And if you haven't watched any of our live shows where you can call in, do check us out on twitch.tv/The Football Fan Show, or search The Football Fan Show live on YouTube. Let's get into it, shall we? Starting with Frank Lampard. Let's get straight into chatting about Frank Lampard, who I thought his sacking 2 weeks ago was rather harsh. Ironically, we were going to put out a video because we were talking before he was sacked about who could replace him, and then he was sacked on Monday, and we had a video to be published on our YouTube channel on Tuesday about it. So I was like, oh shit, better do it on Monday. better get out of my... get off my ass and publish it on Monday. But, Frank Lampard was sacked. Thomas Tuchel has taken over as Chelsea manager. But so everyone's talked about it. So I wanted to talk about this instead and bring in a different angle, because Gary Neville has ruthlessly claimed, according to this article from TalkSport, that Frank Lampard should be the least surprised of anyone after being axed by Chelsea, considering his apparent role in getting managers sacked by the club. Obviously, the Blues legend was shown the door by the owner, Roman Abramovich, which also came with a statement that they never seem to do for any manager, by the way. It's just because he's a club legend. But Neville claims Lampard must have seen it coming following speculation from the media some weeks ago, highlighting how the Chelsea squad were influential in the sacking of Andre Villas-Boas in 2012. This was on the Gary Neville podcast on Sky, and he said, I think because of the rumours that came out of Stamford Bridge in the media before, it wasn't really a shock. I go back to 8 years ago when Villas-Boas had picked a team in the afternoon of a Champions League game. He left out Frank Lampard, Michael Essien, and another big player at that time. And I remember Chelsea players at the time rang up members of the media and trying to get him out. And Frank was part of that group. Speaking of AVB, we will be talking about what's going on at Marseille a little bit later on, because, it's weird. But, yeah... I mean, that does sour it, but I still think Frank Lampard was harshly done by, considering what he achieved last season with no money spent. I don't think he should have spent the money. I think he should have trusted the players that he had. I think of his lack of faith in the players that he had. Because, with those players that were already there, he would have had some sort of cult of personality going on anyway. Because they would have been like, it's Frank Lampard. We've got to play for this guy because he's a legend. He can really help us improve. Whereas players that have no connection with the club, that hadn't been there for any amount of time, like, say, Timo Werner, he'll just go, well, he's just an English manager to me. Timo Werner has no connection to Chelsea. So, and he's been arguably just crap. Well, no, not arguably. He has been crap. I'm a bit perplexed by the so Thomas Tuchel will last six months, maybe a year. He'll get sacked eventually, because that always seems to be the way with Thomas Tuchel. So I was kind of shocked that Lampard was sacked, and then I remembered what I thought when he was appointed manager, and then I remembered what I said at that time was he'll be around for the transfer embargo, and then they'll get rid of him. And I was right, seemingly. I was seemingly right. Who doesn't enjoy being right? But I do remember at the time going, yeah, he's going to get sacked as soon as they can start signing players. They've only brought him in to manage the kids. And that is apparently what happened. Because as soon as he had money to spend, he spent it, got sacked. But then Chelsea are always... At least Chelsea aren't as bad as Watford. At least Chelsea can look at Watford and go, now there's a club that doesn't know their shit.
That's true. Not as bad as the older Aston Villa owners when they had their season where they went down.
Oh yeah, because they started the season with
was it Martin O'Neill?
No, I think Martin O'Neill had left at that point. I know they bought in the Lyon manager, who was an ex-Arsenal player, and he did not know what he was doing.
Oh yeah, started the season with.
I think it was Paul Lambert who was the.
Oh yeah, started with Paul Lambert, finished with Remy Gard.
Oh sorry, no, it started with. Yeah, Remy. Who did it start with? Remy. Yeah. Remy Gard. Eric Black was interim manager in the summer months. I'm just having a so they were initially managed by Tim Sherwood. He was sacked in October, and then a week later Remy Gard agreed a 3.5-year deal to become the manager. They were bottom of the league at that point. He Remy Gard dropped midfielder Jack Grealish. Try doing that now. Yeah, that would run you. He would run you out of town. And he was sacked, and then Eric Black took over as caretaker manager, and even Kevin McDonald at one point. Remember him, ex-Swindon manager?
Oh yes,
yes, he was absolutely freaking terrible. Good coach, crap manager. So yeah, that was when they went down. I forgot Tim Sherwood was the Aston Villa manager. Frank Lampard apparently not interested in the Bournemouth job. He is the current second favourite. We'll take a look at the odds to be the next Bournemouth manager. But let's take a look at the Celtic job, because apparently that's all we look at every week. Rafa Benitez, now the favourite for that. But the reason I bring up the Celtic job is that Lampard is 8-1 to be the next Celtic boss with BetVictor. So he's not the favourite. But could you see Frank Lampard versus... I think Frank Lampard would take that job purely because he'd like to take on Steven Gerrard.
I was just thinking that. I think that would be perfect. The old firm derby being managed by Stevie G and Frank Lampard.
Yeah, absolutely.
The thing is as well,
they don't like each other. Let's be fair. On a professional front, they might get on, but on the pitch, they just No, they just did not work together. Not. And I imagine in the dugout, they are such opposing ideas that it's just... They're such different people that it would just spark up the old firm completely.
The thing is with Frank Lampard is that obviously he gives it a lot of that on the touchline. But the thing is that if you as soon as you give that kind of mouth to a Scouse bloke, he'll go in night-night.
Yeah, he's knocking you the F out. So, yes. I think it'd be interesting. I think Frank Lampard managing Celtic, I think that'd probably be a backward step in his career. Well, I think anything's a backward step now, but he can't expect to take on a club like Chelsea. He can't manage any of the top 8 clubs in England now.
He's got to look at clubs where he feels like he could do well as a manager, like what he could achieve. So like, if he went to Celtic, what's the best he could hope for? The Scottish League and the Scottish Cup. Pretty much every manager before him has done that. The goal is getting Celtic into the Champions League or some kind of European football. I would say it would be more of a step up for him if he went to Bournemouth and got them back into the Premier League. That would be his crowning achievement, because he never achieved that with Derby. He had a
No.
very good couple of seasons with Derby County before he got called up to Chelsea. I think that was a bit too soon for him, only for the fact that, and the reason why the kids played so well for him is because half of them were on loan at Derby when he was there.
Yeah,
People like Mason Mount. So he showed so much faith in them. The problem with that he had with probably getting the players on board is, obviously, you had the superstar players like Timo Werner, players who you can see when they come in from being top, a top dog from other leagues, they always take time to adapt. I mean, obviously, Nicola Pepe, they say, like, big transfer fee. They'll probably say he was never a superstar, but in his final season at Lille, the only person who had scored more goals than Nicola Pepe in Liga was Kylian Mbappe. So that's some achievement in itself. But at the same time, he brought Timo Werner to be that superstar striker that Chelsea have been craving for since they let Diego Costa go. The problem with hiring players like Thiago Silva, by taking them on, is the fact that when they start to get to the 33, 34 age, is that then they just become mercenaries. They'll just go to any club that will give them a contract, like a 1-year deal. You're talking about loyalty to the club. I 100% agree with you. The kids that are playing, like your Hudson Odois, your Tammy Abrahams, your Mason Mounts, your things like that, people who've been there, Cesar Azpilicueta, if you want to say, players that have been with Chelsea for a long time who are loyal to the club. You're then replacing these players with mercenary players. Let's say Timo Werner had the hottest season in the world at Chelsea.
Yeah.
And then let's say Barca came calling and turned his head with a big money offer. Do you honestly think that there'd be loyalty stopping him from chasing that up? Absolutely not. Same with Thiago Silva. He's going to have one season this year, and then he'll probably head to the Middle East. He'll probably head to China, head to America. You can bet your bottom dollar. David Beckham's still recruiting for Inter Miami as well. Their season's just started.
Because I'm looking at some of the players that were Chelsea last season that have since left on loan or otherwise. I'd say I know Ross Barkley never set the world on fire at Chelsea, but I think allowing him to leave for Villa, a team where he's seemingly doing a lot better, was a mistake. Allowing Ruben Loftus-Cheek to join Fulham on loan was a mistake, in my opinion, and letting Michy Batshuayi go on loan to Crystal Palace again was a mistake. I think and honestly, I don't know how many games Christian Pulisic started this season. 19 games, and last year he got 34 games. He should easily be one of their top players. They should sign him up on a 5-year deal, make him the highest paid player, and just say, okay, stay here for the long term. Sign him up, but they're not doing that because they decided to spend money on players that I don't think they needed. But I thought defensively, Chelsea was. I thought defense was their weakest point last season. Go on.
I was going to say, if we're talking defence, Chelsea could have easily, instead of buying Timo Werner, because obviously they already have quite a good striker in Tammy Abraham when he's on his day.
Yeah.
I would say they could have easily got out and got Koulibaly from Napoli. They could have got. No, they could. There's a couple of decent defenders who are playing in Germany at the moment. If they were going to get a player from Germany, they could have got Akanji, Zagadou from Dortmund, Sula from Bayern Munich, or if they want to take a defender, he was like a little bit later on, but still has plenty to offer. Jerome Boateng would have been perfect. That would have been a perfect buy, because then what have you got? You got the pairing of two German centre backs in Rudiger and Boateng.
I
You
think
could not ask for a better combination.
I think the only reason they didn't sign Jerome Boateng is because his brother comes free as standard.
Mm.
And no one wants Kevin Prince Boateng. No one wants him. It's like, yes, buy one Jerome Boateng, get a Kevin Prince Boateng free. No, thank you. Where is he now, Kevin Prince Boateng? I take the piss, but where is he now? Where is he?
Do you know?
I know he was at AC Milan for some reason. I don't know how he was there.
I think he's playing in Russia. I think he plays for Lokomotiv.
No, he plays for AC Monza. The same club that Mario Balotelli is at.
AC Monza.
AC Monza.
Isn't that online bank?
Also where they hold the Italian Grand Prix, north of Milan. And guess who it's owned by? Bunga Bunga.
Oh, Silvio Berlusconi.
Yes. I love the fact that I don't even have to say his name. Bunga Bunga. It's all I have to say. So it looks like then that Lampard has seemingly ruled himself out of being the next Bournemouth manager. Let's have a look at those odds, because Jason Tindall was sacked after 6 months in charge this week. Jonathan Woodgate took over today. He is the caretaker manager for their 3-2 win against Birmingham City. Now, Bournemouth were in the relegation zone. They had they'd lost to Sheffield Wednesday. They'd lost to Reading. They'd lost to Derby. They'd lost to Luton. They drew against Millwall. The last game they won was on the 2nd of January this year. So as soon as 2020 turned to 2021, the shit hit the fan in a way. And yes, they haven't won in a month. So this is their first win in a month for Bournemouth. I mean, I don't know what they were expecting. Jason Tindall had no prior management experience. He was part of Eddie Howe's coaching teams. Things needed to change at Bournemouth. I think it was always going to take time. 6 months is no time. And I think there's a lot of goodwill from football fans towards Bournemouth, and I'm hoping that doesn't change, but I'm hoping they also don't give us a reason for that goodwill to suddenly dissipate. In a sense that they become just sack this guy, sack that guy, sack this guy, sack that guy.
I think they need a steady few years. You know, I think that they're going to need a manager who's going to take the time to build a project. You know, someone who's not going to have, someone who's going to have a fantastic season, but then whose head's not going to be turned by, potential Premier League management. They need to look a bit further afield to managers who. The thing is, we keep categorizing these managers. You've got the managers that know what it's like to push for glory. You get the managers that kind of, know how to survive a relegation battle. So it's a difficult one to put on there because there's not that many managers out there, unless, of course, you can have a look at Neil Lennon again for Bournemouth.
I know. He's a fail. He failed at Bolton. And I don't think he's a known quantity now, and I don't think he's the right person. Well, let's have a look at the odds, shall we? On who the next Bournemouth manager will be. Someone that I think Harry Redknapp definitely wants to get the job, who I hope will fail, is John Terry. 3-5 with 888 Sport, 4-7 with BetVictor, 8-11 with William Hill to become the next Bournemouth manager. Obviously, he's not been a manager before. Currently, assistant manager to Dean Smith at Aston Villa. I think John Terry suits the role of being an assistant, and I've been very, very critical of John Terry based on his behaviours. The biggest issue that I would have, that I think the Bournemouth players would have with John Terry, is probably sleeping with their wives and girlfriends. Lest we forget Wayne Bridge. But no, in all seriousness, after the joke...
Lads, I want you to give me a 3-0 result, or so help me, I will bury it in your missus's back door.
You can imagine him having that kind of conversation with his players.
Oh yeah, he'll just like sit.
After the game, one of his players. Yeah, go on.
He'll just sit down with half of his players, and he's just like sat there with Jefferson Lerman. He's like, mate, yeah, I need you to track back, because if you don't, I'm going to stick it in the back.
Can you get a press conference after a Bournemouth game with him as manager? Why is morale so low in the dressing room? Well, the manager keeps sleeping with our wives and girlfriends, so it doesn't really help.
Yeah. Why is the morale so low, yet John Terry's cock's so high?
Hey, he's cock of the walk. Hey. Lampard.
He's full of vitality.
Yes. Hey. Oh, puntastic. Punny. Very punny. Frank Lampard is still the second favourite, despite reportedly ruling himself out of the job. 4-1 with 888 Sports, 6-1 with BetVictor, 3-1 with William Hill. Jonathan Woodgate, the current caretaker boss, is the third favourite. 5-2, 5-2 with 888 Sport. BetVictor's 8-1, 9-1 William Hill. I think that would be that'd be an interesting shout.
Which one's that?
Jonathan Woodgate. I do think that I reckon, if you look at Jonathan Woodgate CV, it's, I know which club is at the top of that list, and it ain't Middlesbrough. It's Real Madrid. Real Madrid is the first port of call. He's definitely the person that puts his best employer at the top of that CV. He's like, I used to work for Real Madrid. Yeah, and what did you do for them? Sit on the bench and occasionally come off sometimes? There you go. Or the fourth favourite for the job is the current Beijing... Fuck me, I'm going to butcher this. Beijing... Guan. That sounds like I'm being racist, but I'm not. I'm trying to... Guoan. I'm shit with names. Sue me. Guan. To Guan or not to Guan. Slaven Bilic. He's been there a month. I didn't realise he was back in management already. He's working out in China. 16-1, 14-1. That rules him out with the Sheffield United job. Although, actually, to be fair, they've improved a lot under Chris Wilder. 16-1 with BetVictor, Slaven Bilic. 14-1 with William Hill. Patrick Vieira 20-1 with BetVictor and 14-1 with William Hill. And then I'll end it with this because it's not going to happen. 9-1, 888 Sport. 25-1 with BetVictor. 20-1 with William Hill. The U-turn of the century, Eddie Howe to return to Bournemouth. Don't see it happening.
Shall I tell you who I would love to see take up that role as their
Fire
first
away.
foray into club? So, Thierry Henry, who's currently the assistant manager of the Belgian national team.
I believe Thierry Henry is already a manager. He's
really?
managing in the MLS because he's crap. He's a crap manager. Because he was the assistant manager of Belgium, and then he ended up at Monaco and was sacked. And then now he's at the head coach at Club de Foot Montreal because it's French, so it's Montreal Football Club. But he's currently managing in the MLS. And Montreal, by the way, are doing shite because great players do not make great managers, unfortunately.
Unless they've got unlimited wealth, a la Andrea Pirlo, and they've got.
I mean, Andrea Pirlo isn't doing a very good job according to Juventus because they're only third in the league, and apparently he was one of the people on the chopping block. Unless it's handed to you all on a silver platter, i.e. Zinedine Zidane.
But then again, if you think about it, all managers are ex-players anyway.
Yes, but some are better players than they are managers, and some are better managers than they are players. Look at Klopp. He spent his entire playing career in the German second division. But he's
Arsene Wenger only played 10 years of a football career in the French second division.
Yeah, didn't he play for Strasbourg or Strasbourg?
Strasbourg, yeah.
I mean, Alex Ferguson wasn't a great player, but bloody hell, he was a great manager.
Oh yeah.
Eddie Howe was never a great player. He played for the England under-21s when he was in the second division, League One. I think that's the highest level he ever played at.
And then you have Gary Monk, who was neither a great player nor manager.
Gary Monk. Where is he now? Is he? Where is he?
Back to his
unemployed. That's where he is.
Yeah. Or you could be like Swindon, where former players end up as your owner.
Or just don't be like Swindon.
In all walks of life, not just football.
Chris Kamara by Swindon. We're already a joke. That's where we go next. Swindon Town Football Club. The club that brings us joy every Saturday when they turn out to be completely shite.
Yeah, you said it.
Lost 1-0 to a team they hadn't lost to at the county ground since 1995. A 1-0 defeat to Shrewsbury Town. Somebody told me that the other day, that they hadn't lost in a long, long time to Shrewsbury Town at the county ground. And the Adver, the local paper here in Swindon, it says John Sheridan was adamant that his side dominated the second half of their 1-0 defeat to Shrewsbury Town. We're not talking about the game. I just want to say that when the stats are okay, it wasn't as bad as when they won their last game against Wigan, they had like 30% possession or something like that. It looked like Wigan should have won, and yet Wigan lost because they are also terrible. Swindon now back in the relegation zone following that win against Wigan. Now tonight's defeat has seen Shrewsbury jump up to 17th against relegation rival Swindon, who are now 21st on 24 points. And I thought they had turned a corner. Silly me. Shrewsbury got a 1-0 win, but that's not why we're talking about them, because Now, I better mind what I say because I don't want to get sued. How do I put this? How do I put this? Okay, so I've been doing another stream all week for charity for Samaritans, and there is a sound clip that I use because that's how I make my jokes, and I think this one sums up how I feel about Swindon Town's current ownership.
Not sure if I dare say this one. Wankers.
That's how I feel about the Swindon Town ownership. And, I just feel that they're just wankers. They are just, I think, who is it? Lee Power? The power is most definitely out. And he needs to go. But he's not allowed to sell the club. That's what we all forget. He isn't allowed to sell the club. And the reason why is because Gareth Barry's agent is trying to sue to decide whether he's in control. So he's not allowed to sell the club until that moment. Did you have you read the notes from the court hearing?
I haven't. No. All I know is the fact that if Gareth Barry does,
his agent Michael Spalding.
Yeah, if he's trying to say that Gareth Barry owns the club, then Gareth Barry's doing himself no favours there, because legally he cannot have a vested interest in two clubs because he's still playing.
Yeah, but it's not Gareth Barry who's owning it; it's his agent. Although they did look into, the FA have apparently looked into it. Beautiful game 247 says Bruno Fernandes is a genius. I'm assuming that's referring to the current Manchester United game where they are 2-0 up. Yes, it is. Bruno Fernandes, 45th minute goal. It's half-time. Manchester United 2, Everton 0 with Cavani. Cantona-esque goal. So that's what he's referring to. That goal from Bruno Fernandes was Cantona-esque, set up by Wan-Bissaka. Haven't seen it yet. I'll go watch it. Once the highlights are on YouTube. I think
they're trying to refer to his unibrow.
The seagulls. I got to admit, I'm not a Reds fan, but I do miss Cantona. I miss that. I miss it. It's so good. He was awesome. Anyway, Swindon Town. So our local team apparently is on the brink of collapse, according to its owner. He came out and I don't want to say he was looking for sympathy, but he was probably looking for sympathy. The town chairman, Lee Power, has... I thought that was a sound effect from you. I thought you were just making fart noises.
I'm cracking open a bottle.
Because it's making you an alcoholic, yes. The town chairman revealed the dire straits of the club's finances after coming under fire from fans for selling star man Dilang Yashimi?
Dilang Jayasimi.
There you go.
It was a case of
terrible with names.
It was a case of Jayasimi. Now you don't.
Oh God, that's nearly as bad as one of mine. Okay, I'll give you credit on that one. It's slightly better than one of mine, because mine are terrible. Yeah, he was sold on transfer deadline day. Now I talked about the court hearing about Michael Spaulding, who's Gareth Barry's agent, trying to decide whether he owns the club or Lee Power owns the club, so he can't sell it. And I asked Tom if he'd read the notes from that hearing. Well, yes, I believe he did go to Charlton, didn't he? Yeah,
yes,
he did. He did go to Charlton Athletic, yeah. As Beautiful Game 247 says on Twitch. Yeah, he did. If you read the court notes, and I really encourage you to go to the Swindon Advertiser, find these court notes because they are hilarious. So it was conducted by Zoom. And if we know any meeting this week after the... after the parish council meeting that went viral yesterday on Zoom, if we know anything about Zoom, it's cause for great joy. So the Swindon Town fans hijacked this court hearing with the judge going, well, it's best to mute if you're not one of the parties involved. Instead of that, somebody decided to show the judge a male genitalia. Well-endowed men. What else? Someone just started making fart noises, so going... there was also... I'm trying to remember what else, because it was one of my offbeat news pieces, and it was just...
My dad told me that there was also someone that was live streaming porn through their Zoom call.
Someone was live streaming pornography to this court case regarding Swindon Town Football Club.
It was someone wearing a Lee Power mask penetrating into a butthole with the Swindon Town crest painted on it, if I remember correctly.
Okay, you know a little bit more about this than I do. Clearly, what I loved is I love the fact that the guy in charge of the court said. I'm afraid if this goes on, I'm going to have to say only representatives of the parties can attend because we can't have a hearing like this. To which somebody responded to that saying, "Suck my dick."
It's only could be Swindon Town that does that.
I love it. I love the trolling. I love the trolling.
I know. Oh, it could be worse. It could be like an East London football team. Crystal Palace gets dragged to court, and then there's just someone in the courtroom that just shouts, "Suck your mum."
I just can't believe this is a court hearing about a football club, and somebody just says, "Suck my dick."
As soon as a jury reads out the verdict, it's like, "We find the defendant Lee Power," and then someone on the Swindon Town pod, someone's just going to say, "A cunt."
Wow, somebody would do, yes. To be honest. The amount of power out comments and Beautiful Game 247 says, Oh, Goran Pandev has scored 2 for Genoa today. 11th minute and 26th minute. They're 2-0 up against Napoli. Apparently he's having a stellar game.
I'd just like to take the moment to apologise on Dan's podcast for my colourful French language.
Oh, oui. The Seagulls. So, back to Lee Power. So he had an interview with BBC Radio Wiltshire this week, and he was talking about the club's situation. And he goes, every month, I feel like I should do this. You know the charity adverts where they're like every month in the UK. So yeah, I feel like I should do it in that style. Every month, Lee Power has to worry about funding or finding funding to get the wages paid, and that's where they're at. He said he's surprised we've got this far, if I'm honest. With no supporters and no income since March, it's getting tougher and tougher, and that's where we are. Please help Lee Power. #power out. Yeah, I can't hate. I can't help but hate the guy. He seems like, allegedly, I will say, so I don't get sued, because apparently you can say anything after saying allegedly. Not true. Not true, by the way. But I just feel that he is a bit of a chancer that wanted to make a quick buck and has botched in the process of trying to make that quick buck, has botched it so much that he's now lost more money than he ever thought he was going to make from trying to flip a club for a quick buck. We need new owners, and it looks like if the club doesn't get them, then it looks like the end of February might be it for Swindon Town Football Club and the over 100-year history of a club that started being and was founded by a vicar. It was founded by a vicar. But it looks like it's going to end at the end of February if it doesn't if things don't change. Yes, Reverend William Pitt of Liddington founded the club in 1879. 1879 to 2021. It doesn't have a ring to it because that would be awful. 21st now in League One. I don't feel sorry for Lee Power. He has kind of got himself to blame here. We haven't really had good owners since... well, I say we haven't had good owners since the people that I generally think of as the other guys is the guy that owned it under Danny Wilson. But even they messed it up at the end.
That was Andrew Black, I think it was. Yeah,
and even he messed it up at the end.
Well, he ducked out. So Andrew Black fled a sinking ship because of how much money Di Canio had spent. Yes. That put the club into administration. And he invited in the people like Jed McCrory, another alleged crook in the game. They allowed him and his consortium to come in, which, funnily enough, earned Swindon Town an appearance on Can't Pay, We Take It Away.
Yes.
As I remember watching that episode, I remember the presenter saying their next port of call takes them to a well-known football club, and then the camera following the van, I recognised it as they drove down Queen's Drive past the turning to my house.
Yes, it was not the greatest thing in the world, I've got to be honest.
No.
So yeah, it was not fantastic. I remember watching that episode because every Swindon Town fan has seen that episode. Jeb McCrory was last involved at Worcester in the Rugby Union Premiership. Other than that, there was a legal proceeding between him and Power, wasn't there, about who owned the club? Not between him. He didn't own the club. He was just a representative of the people that owned the club. He was the public face of. And I kind of do feel... I feel sorry for him because he was kind of put out to dry because he wasn't owning the club. He'd never owned the club. He was just the public face of the people that did. And the people that did, you could consider alleged crooks. But you know,
well, Lee Power staged an emergency takeover of the club from Jed McCrory, and when the court result came through saying that the judge ruled in favour of Power, Lee Power came out and said he felt immense relief when he heard the judge say one magical sentence. He said, "Mr. McCrory, you are a liar."
There you go.
The problem is that Lee started celebrating before he could finish that sentence. The judge was going to go on to say, "And Mr. Power, you are a alleged crook."
Yes, well, we're not fans. We're not fans of Lee Power, and because he definitely doesn't have the power. He's not somebody that we're particularly fond of. Fans are demanding answers. I thought one of them actually said, "I thought the salary cap was designed to help clubs." Apparently not. I just love the fact that the head of the trust, the STFC, the Trust STFC, Rob Angus, the vice chairman, he said the trust is calling for proper engagement with fans and supporters, openness and transparency. The real difficulty with Lee Power coming out on BBC Wiltshire is that there's no proper questioning of the facts, so that you're not sure what to believe. And he says he's the only owner we know. The EFL is more than the EFL money is more than what he said. We know there's further EFL money for clubs in financial hardship. He said we were up to the salary cap when the previous manager said we were nowhere near it, and the assistant manager recently said there's plenty of room in the budget. So you see, there's a lot of misdirection. There's a lot of bullshit surrounding this person, and I think he is a shitmonger. I think he revels in it, and I just don't see where the club can go from here other than into inevitable administration and relegation back down to League 2. What I hope doesn't happen is the same thing that happened to Mansfield or Bury. Bury's a better, much more accurate. Not Mansfield, Macclesfield. Yes, you are right to point that out. Yeah, Macclesfield. But more a Bury situation where they got relegated from League One and then ended up going out of business entirely. Although technically not out of business because they still exist as a business. But even though they have no players, no assets, the only asset they have is a club badge and a couple of copyright trademarks and a stadium that isn't being used. So I'd rather it not go down like that, but I do get the feeling that can the fans not buy it? Can we not buy it? I know there were rumours that the fans were going to buy the ground, the lease to the ground for the council, with the fans owning half of it and the club owning half of it. But there are always takeover rumours regarding Swindon Town, and I am just looking for an article from very recent, because I know there was oh my god, if Red Bull had bought the club, Jesus Christ,
we would have been renamed Swindon Red Bulls, and we probably would have had people like Erling Haaland in attack.
I mean, I've got to say, I sign me up. I don't care at the moment because it's just the way things are going. It's just crap, and I don't think the Michael Spaulding thing. I think is just. I don't know what his intentions are.
It's just a way. Two people have found a way to try and what looks like screw money out of the club, use it as a cash cow. You got to think some of the.
But how? I don't understand how it's a cash cow, because Michael Standing, the agent is the prospective owner, and I have no idea why he's taking why he's trying to, what his intentions are, what his intentions of the club are. I'm very worried at this point about the future of the club, because there were a rumoured, last year there was a rumoured £7.5 million takeover on the table, and that has got to do with Gareth Barry's agent Michael Standing, and it feels like it might all be over.
The problem is that then if he was to, you could argue, because you can't have a vested interest in two clubs at the same time, Michael Standing would have to give up being a football agent. Because if he owns a club, he then can't be the agent of other players, because then he would technically have a vested interest in the clubs that they play for. That's not an FA rule. That's government law. That'd be a conflict of interest. So let's say he was owner of Swindon, and then Swindon came up against a team that had two of his players in there.
Yeah.
Or let's say he tried to bring over some of his clients over to the club. That could be, because then what would he get? He could then claim a signing on fee for the players that he takes, and then an agent's fee. That would be a lot of change going through his pockets and not the club's. It would open the door, I would say. The good thing about my job is that it teaches you how to calculate risk, and there'd be too many risks involved if a football agent with many clients became the owner of a football club. Sometimes it's good to have an owner that doesn't necessarily get football, but respects the joy it brings and the togetherness it brings a local community. So if you look at Ryan Reynolds hasn't bought Wrexham to screw money out of it, because he'll probably make more money off of his next movie than the club would make in the next 10 years.
Well, I will just add to that. One of the big reasons why they bought Wrexham is because they want to make a football documentary, and they realised it was cheaper to buy a club than to offer a top club massive amounts of money to star in a documentary. When if you own the club, you can make the documentary yourself. So that's another reason.
But at the same time, as a lot they will own the club. And, for better or for worse. But at the same time, you can't deny, one, it's managed to drum up a hell of a lot of good press for Wrexham.
Oh, no. Yeah.
It's got them a lot of media attention. But by just pure association, they would make a ton of money from it. I think having an owner who's willing to invest in a club but also take a step back from the overall operation, leave it to the people there. So kind of like the best way I can draw a comparison with it is I'm gonna get it done in one hit here, was the late great owner of Leicester City, Vichai Srivadhanaprabha.
Hey, I feel like I should give you a round of applause.
Nah, just give me a round.
Yeah, there you go. Have your round of applause. Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
Allow me a Tommaso Ciampa moment.
There we go. I will just interrupt and say, you know how shit Manchester United are?
Yes.
They were 2-0 up. It's now 2-2. Within the space of within the space of 10 minutes, well, even within the space of 7 minutes. Doucouré with the first goal for Everton on the 49th minute, making it 2-1, and then Rodriguez, 52nd minute, it's 2-2 between Manchester United and Everton. I mean, what I wouldn't give for, Ryan Reynolds to just buy Swindon, for somebody to just buy it and just actually give a shit about it. It would be very nice, and if I had the money myself, I would
100%.
make that move.
I always used to say to my dad, and I would say, like, if I won the Euro Millions when it's a big jackpot, like when it's the £180 million jackpot, 100%, I'd buy the club.
Yeah, even though it is a terrible investment idea. Football. But
they
it could be.
They do say the saying in football is, if you want to make a small fortune in football, start off with a big fortune.
Yeah. Be a billionaire, and by the end of it, you might just be a billionaire.
Yeah, but I think what I would do, if it were me, I'd probably invest in the club for 2 or 3 seasons, get the players in. For me, if I was an owner, I'd be a big advocate for youth development.
See, I wouldn't waste. This is where we differ, because if it were me, I'd scrap the academy and say, well, you're never going to get the best players anyway, so you might as well let them go get trained at Manchester United and Man City, and then pick them up on a free transfer when take their scraps, because that's how Brentford have operated. They've just got a B team; they haven't got an academy, and look at how they're, 1, profitable, and 2. Nearly got into the Premier League last year. So I would argue that I used to be you. I used to be the argument that investing hundreds of pounds in player development it was the right strategy. But actually now I'm much more of the money ball strategy. It
depends on what you invest in terms of player development. You need to invest in a very, very good scouting network. You need people at Sunday league games watching like the under 9s or 10s and things like that and spotting them out there. You need to invest in those pieces. I would say if it were me, I would say you'd invest big bits of money and get a continuous stream of income. If you can invest in your youth, they come in through the team and then they're hot for 2 seasons. They get sold. Add a sell-on clause into there so that the next time they get transferred, they make a bit of extra money as well.
Yeah.
So they need to make so that would be me investing in youth. Obviously, I would buy the more experienced heads because the experienced players, the players who are in the twilight of their careers, they're the ones that are going to be offering the wisdom to the younger ones. And I'm a massive advocate for youth development. I think one of the things I used to do on FIFA is I used to do seasons with different clubs where I would never buy a single player. I would only use the players that I started off with and ones that came through the youth academy. And then as soon as an offer came through that was more than £5 million, I'd sell them and then reinvest it. And I managed to get from League 2 to the Championship in 3 seasons with that. So
yeah. I was going to say on Football Manager, I always add a sell-on clause for like 10 between 10 and 15%. So even if it's a player I don't want that I don't believe is any good, I'll still add that, even if I'm selling them to like a National League club or something. So I'll still add it.
Yeah. In all honesty, the thing that ruins football for me and what causes there to be such a massively overinflated market for it is agent fees. Agents ruin the game. And I remember on the last podcast before we finished for Christmas, we were going through the conversation between Simon Jordan and Mino Raiola.
Oh yes, wonderful.
You're as bothersome to me as a rainy day.
yeah, exactly. It was a wonderful, wonderful thing.
A wonderful poetic put down.
To which he subsequently hung up the phone.
Yeah. So I think Swindon's going to need him to invest heavily in the development of its youth going forward, because obviously money is going to be tight until we have an investor. I understand obviously you've got the Brentford where you can just pick up pick up youth players that don't get their contracts renewed or don't get professional contracts. But then at the same time, they've still got that network of agents who will probably still command higher fees and therefore drive the prices and the wage bill up and things like that. So, and that's when you end up with people like Mino Raiola. You know, when he needs to buy another Maserati, all he'll do is just speak to a bloke in the papers and says, "Yeah, Paul Pogba, you know, shat on Ole Gunnar Solskjaer's carpet, and that's why he's not in the squad." Therefore, he, you know, and then the paper will be like, "Oh, bust up between training ground between manager and Pogba, leaves Real Madrid and Barcelona waiting in the wings for the outcome." You know, that's not the way to do business in football, and everyone I know will agree with me on that. You cannot plant the seeds of doubt in people's minds just because your agent wants another payday.
No.
So I think the big drive should be in youth development. I think they should relax some of the laws around youth players, where they're under a certain age, therefore you have to get paid a certain amount of compensation.
Yeah, because you know, the big clubs with the top academies, the rules are written for them to be able to just say, well, you know, this is a good kid, so we'll just take him from you. Because I think there's a grading system for academies where grade 1 academies can sign players from grade 2 or grade 3 academies for nothing. So yeah, it's weird. I think the most immediate thing Swindon Town could do is get rid of John Sheridan.
Yes.
I think he should resign. He should know he won't, because he's a money grabbing. See you next Tuesday, but he's a money grabbing tosser, allegedly. Well, no, to be fair, he did say if I was winning all the time, I wouldn't be managing Swindon. You are a money grabbing tosser, John Sheridan. No, that to me, you said that to the local paper. You are a money grabbing tosser. That is, if you say that, if you were winning, then you wouldn't be at Swindon. Well, then go fuck yourself. You should have resigned after that point. This man has no professional pride whatsoever. No pride in his work. Clearly doesn't want to be there. Clearly doesn't enjoy the fact that he's there. He left a financially struggling club in Wigan to come to another financially struggling team in Swindon, although we have a little bit more money. Well, allegedly. Maybe. I don't know. But, this guy is a freaking... I reckon John Sheridan wanted the job because he wanted to work for another chancer, because he's a chancer, and he wanted to work for a chancer. He wanted to work for Lee Power, who is a chancer. He's a chancer. And the amount of clubs that... the fact that he managed Waterford, John Sheridan, who... do you know who owns Waterford? Guess who owns Waterford? Oh, wait, it's Lee Power. Why doesn't he sell that club, then? Why do you own 2 football clubs? Why does Lee Power own 2 football clubs if he can't afford one? Don't come to me, or don't go into the local paper or talk to a local radio station and say that you can't afford Swindon Town Football Club when you own a freaking Irish Premier League team. Sell them, or sell Swindon. Sell one of your clubs. A Waterford FC going. I'm going to Google this now. Waterford FC finances. I'm googling it. Do they reckon that they're going out of business? No, there are no articles suggesting that. No articles. At all.
I would say interesting read. If you want to look to see football clubs, stuff like that, go onto Company's House and look at their annual accounts.
Well, this is an Irish club, so...
yeah. Well, I remember looking, 2019 accounts for Swindon Town, cash in bank at hand and in hand stood at 84,000. Now, I was speaking to a friend of mine who used to work for the club, and they said that Swindon Town's wage budget is £400,000 a month.
Jesus Christ. That should be way less. Who are they giving all the bloody money to? Who are they giving all this money to?
If you look at the players as well, and then you've got people who work the stands, the higher ups, people who they spend. So that's the wage bill for the entire club. I may be wrong. I may be talking at the back of my head here. I don't want to generate any undue press to me. But my personal view on it, what I was told, I would just remember it being somewhere in the 400k mark. It could be a year, it could be a month. I don't know. I cannot remember. But they were spending a lot of money. The problem with signing these ex-Championship and Premier League players, so like Jonathan Grounds, who we got on a free from Middlesbrough, players like that will automatically command a massive wage. There should be. I think the best thing when we were talking about it quite some time ago about what is the best thing that Premier League clubs can do for lower league clubs is when they send players out on loan, they pay 100% of the wages.
Yeah. Yeah. For God's sakes, just get rid of John Sheridan and make Paul Caddis the caretaker manager. Fuck it. Bring back Noel Hunt. I literally don't understand why Noel Hunt left. He should have been given the job. I'd rather, yeah, exactly. Money. Fuck.
Yeah, Salford. Remember, Salford's owned by the United class in '97. So. Yeah,
well, they've got loads of money, haven't they? When 40% of the club is owned by billionaire Peter Lim, 10% is owned by David Beckham, 10% is owned by Gary Neville, 10% is owned by Phil Neville, 10% is owned by Nicky Butt. Then I think you got Paul Scholes in there and Ryan Giggs as well. So they're all millionaires and a billionaire stakeholder as well. So it's just it's ridiculous. And then you got Forest Green Rovers, who's owned by someone with way, way, way too much money. To be fair, I like Dale Vince, so he's a good dude. But yeah, when you've got him, he's got way too, the amount of money the pockets he has is loads. He must have loads of money. Not that I'm trying to do a sketch from the 90s, loads of money, but he does. He definitely has deep pockets because that club should not be where it is. It's essentially a village team, and that should be in like the Gloucestershire Premier League or something like that.
Yeah, 100%. We need someone who's got deep pockets to come in and buy town. Do you know what? The more we think about how much of a financial struggle it is, the more I wish Red Bull did come in and buy us.
Yep.
Because the amount of money that would have provided us with, my goodness, like buying the ground, make it bigger.
We'd have had a youth academy, going back to your earlier point, we'd have had a youth academy on par with the Etihad campus.
Yeah, that is true.
Which is, if you've ever been there, it's, oh my God, it's beautiful. It's a beautiful place. But let's stop depressing ourselves. Go on.
I was going to say we could have expanded the county ground to the point where we would have had a magic roundabouts to hand. Although to be fair, one thing I do like about what they've invested in the grounds round the county ground is Foundation Park. I've played on that ground and it is very, very nice.
It just said McTominay had scored on the 70th minute, but I'm not sure if it's been. Yeah, no, Scott McTominay has scored for Manchester United. It's 3-2 on the 70th minute. I don't know if there's a debate surrounding it because it keeps flicking on and flicking off on my screen. So I don't know if there's a debate around it, but whether VAR's got involved. But it's United 3, Everton 2. Let's look at... so me and Tom did the transfer deadline day for the summer window. We didn't do one for January because it was the most boring transfer window possible. But then, really, what would you expect during a pandemic? Although, to be fair, the amount of money spent in the summer, I was going to say we were quite shocked, weren't we, back then, with the amount of money
deadline
spent.
Day.
Yeah,
I remember we went online just, I think it was about an hour before the window closed, and some of the deals getting over the line in that last hour, it was pretty heavy stuff when we heard that number of Premier League clubs had completed last minute deals. Literally an hour and a half before the window closes, Arsenal decide to activate Thomas Partey's release clause. It was a crazy time.
Yeah. And this January,
he-
you get crazy transfers like Ben Davies to Liverpool. The craziest transfer of them all, Ben Davies to Liverpool. I mean, you can see why. Oh, we should have done a transfer deadline day. Yeah, you can see why we didn't do it. Deadline day show.
I would say Arsenal had the busiest transfer window, mainly because they managed to get rid of so many players. So Mustafi went to Schalke, Socrates went to Olympiacos, Mesut Ozil Fenerbahce, Joe Willock went to Newcastle, Ainsley Maitland-Niles has gone to West Brom. So they've managed to trim back the club. They've managed to free up some wages. Getting Ozil off the wage bill come the summer, if the board are still backing Mikel Arteta in the same way they did last summer, and then there's more of an inkling as to whether fans can come back, I see Arsenal being able to spend money. What I'd love Arsenal to do, and I know it won't happen because Zidane's a dickhead, I want them to get Martin Odegaard on a permanent deal.
Well, I was gonna say hold your horses on that one because I think he might. Yeah, I think he might be overhyped. I think he might be a little bit overhyped. So I would hold your horses on that one. I'm wanting to sign him. I know he was great when he was 15 , but hasn't really done much since. So I'd hold your horses on that.
Do you know what? Yeah. If I was going to get a creative player, as much as I love Martin Odegaard, only because I remember using him like when I was playing FIFA years ago, and I got him on loan for Swindon Town, and he bagged me like 21 goals and 15 assists in a season. So I may be a bit biased.
Yeah,
but I think
he is apparently eyeing. Sorry to interrupt, but apparently he is eyeing a stay at Arsenal.
Yeah, which would be quite good because I think Arsenal for the youth players they've got around them, they've definitely got an idea of developing youth and creative players. So if I was to pick a creative player that I would love to have at Arsenal to fill that number 10 role, and I'm probably going to kick myself for saying this and for the fact that Arsenal didn't do it sooner, I would love Arsenal to sign Jack Grealish.
Not going to happen, though. Not for anything less than 100 million. And that'll be Aston Villa saying he's on a long-term contract. It's going to cost you over 100 million. And whether he's worth that, you can debate yourself. But that's how much it would cost you. It would cost you over 100 million. Easily. The other person who I'd love to take in a creative position from Borussia Dortmund, Thorgan Hazard. Yeah, I never hear much from him now because he's in the shadow of his brother, isn't he? So he's never quite made the same headlines as his brother, despite having played for the same teams relatively. But Eden Hazard is seen as this godlike, near like the replacement of Messi or Ronaldo or something like that, and
hasn't gone quite well like that.
No, it hasn't exactly. Well, that's what he was expected to do at Madrid, and it didn't quite go that way. But it didn't quite go like that. But he, carries on.
I would love Memphis Depay as well.
Who would order pies? That's why I would want him. That's why I would want him in the who would order pies. Yeah. Anyway, so transfer deadline day, biggest deals. Ben Davies to Liverpool. Ozan Kabak also joined Liverpool. Southampton signed Takumi Minamino on loan. Joshua King has confirmed he's staying at Everton until the rest of the season on loan from Bournemouth. Josh King, the Norwegian player. West Brom secured Ainsley Maitland-Niles and Yukuslu. Yeah. Newcastle
you still can't say Yakubu.
yeah, that's it. Joseph Yubo. Newcastle bought in Arsenal's Joe Willock for the remainder of the season. Fulham have signed Josh Major on loan, and Brighton have signed teenage midfielder Moses Caicedo. And that was easier. That was an easier one for me.
I just want there to be a moment where
boring transfer window.
That Moses Caicedo, where bought by Brighton, wasn't it?
Yes.
I just really want him to go on a massive run against Man United and score, just so that they can say Moses has just split the red defence.
Well, maybe we need Victor Moses to come back. Did he ever score against Manchester United? No, I don't think he ever did.
No, he plays in Turkey now. I don't know what it is, but there's like my top 3 leagues that would put me up. Like top 3 leagues, I would say if I was a player I'd never play for, but would be Turkish league, Chinese league, and Russian league.
What about the American league?
See, I could go to the American league because that'd be when I'm in my like mid-30s and making my retirement money.
But think about it this way: you go from the Premier League to the Championship or something like that, and then you go to the United States, and you're like 35. You spend 3 years earning what, 30 grand, maybe 20 grand a week in the MLS. Good money, sizable, decent money. Some players, unless you're one of these special designated players, in which case you might get $100,000 a week, but not much more than that, I reckon. Not much more, because they're not massive on spending. Because if you're a special designated player, it means the league, the MLS itself, contributes to your wages, which I know the league doesn't really like. But and then you're 38. You're at the end of your MLS contracts for FC Dallas, let's just say that. Let's pick a random club. And then Shanghai Shenhua come at you. You've been earning $100,000 a week, and then they say, we will give you $500,000 a week to come and play for us. I would take it.
I wouldn't, because then what would I achieve?
Being literally earning millions of dollars or millions of pounds. Give it 2 weeks, you'd earn £1 million. 2 weeks. If it's a 2-year contract for £500,000 a week, I'm signing it. Yeah, you can sign me now if you want.
The thing is that I couldn't do it, because I just feel like if I was going to carry on my career, I would only carry on my career. You get these players that, you'll get the ones that are like coming up to 40 and still in great shape and knocking goals in, like Ibrahimovic. And then you get people who, like probably Buffon, who are just clinging on just so they can still, make a bit of pay packet. I would probably hang up my boots if I felt like I was not achieving as a player, like achieving the trophies that I wanted, playing the football that I wanted, things like that. So that's why then I would probably try and take it to another league, where the football industry is still quite young, like the MLS. I feel like getting all that money, it would kind of defeat the purpose of it. You get paid more for what you're accomplishing. I know it sounds really silly, but I've always been that. As an individual, I've always been that way. Like if I said I won the lottery, if I won 180 million tomorrow, I'd still go to work. I'd still do the job I do now for Metrobank, because
I'd quit.
I'd
sit on my arse for the rest of my life.
Do you know what? I would, because as much as I'd have that money, I'd much rather have that sense of accomplishment as well. I'd much rather say, you know what? I've been given a ton of money. I've been given a load of money just by sheer chance by winning the lottery. I want to give back now, to feel like, I've at least somewhat earned probably 1%, probably even less than that of it, by working and doing what I do. So yeah, I'd still have that drive for that sense of accomplishment. I feel like I'd sleep better at night knowing that I've come home knackered from working rather than come home knackered from a round of golf.
I mean, can you get knackered from a round of golf?
Oh yeah,
Um,
you could probably get like a dead arm and an itchy crotch maybe, but
yeah, at least they make that golf club that you can pee into. So, if you're ever caught
mm,
short, you can just pee into that. Um,
mm.
I don't know.
I'm having a P2 on a par, a number 2 on a par 4.
Wait, you're having a birdie on a par 4? No.
Oh, did you get any? Oh, did you get an eagle? Nah, but it felt like it.
Yeah. Did you get a birdie? No, but KFC said the bird was boneless. So.
Oh, I got a double bogey. It certainly felt like it.
Apparently, so post-transfer window, there are still transfer rumours going on, so let's just clear up a couple of these. Man City, I believe, winning the Premier League title this season will ensure they beat Chelsea to the signing of Erling Haaland for Borussia Dortmund, from Borussia Dortmund. Haaland is a transfer target of both City and Chelsea, and obviously City believe if they win the Premier League, should they win the Premier League, that they will be signing him ahead of Chelsea. I'm not so sure on that, but we'll see. Manchester United, let's see what Tom makes of this. Manchester United manager Ole Gunnar Solskjaer has suggested that Paul Pogba could be set to sign a new contract, reports The Guardian.
Hopefully there's a clause in that contract that says Mino Raiola gets fuck all.
I said it 2 weeks ago when Liam was on the show, and he said, "Oh, you can't piss off the agents as a manager." But I would have I said at the time, like, I would offer Pogba a new contract with the clause that you have to sack Raiola. You have to sack him, otherwise you get put in the reserves until the end of your contract. You get released on a free. Because I would have no interest in playing you. I would just go, right, you're in the reserves, bye bye. But that would get you the sack, apparently. So apparently, Liverpool fans, this is the last one. Mohamed Salah could be the player to make way if Liverpool seal the deal for Kylian Mbappe from PSG. Oh, I think that's coming from La Marca in Spain. I don't see Liverpool selling Salah for even if they do bring in Mbappe. I don't see them. I just don't see that happening.
The problem is, I find with Mbappe is the fact that he seems like the kind of young man, like, I think he would crave another challenge. Like, I think what he would want to do is conquer a league, like win the championship in each league. And to be fair, at his age and his ability, he could probably walk up to each team. He could walk up to Barcelona's president's office, sit at the table, whip his knob out and put it on the table and say, "Now will you sign me?" And Barcelona, and they would kiss him on the end of the Jap sign and be like, "Welcome to Barca." So I think Mohamed Salah, I think because he's got a connection with the Liverpool fan, and a lot of the time the player's connection to a club is worth a lot more than how much money you can get from and who you can bring in. Because I feel like me and you said it before, football players are basically the modern day mercenaries. They'll do it if the money's right. It doesn't matter who they play for. So there's very few cases of genuine loyalty left. It's why I felt so hurt and very upset when Emi Martinez left Arsenal, because there was a guy who had been with the club since he was about 14. Basically, the only reason he first stepped foot out of Argentina, when he flew over to England to sign for Arsenal, was the first time he set foot out of Argentina, and he came to do it for that. And he stayed at the club for 10 years before he managed to get a big break. So imagine being the third choice goalkeeper for 10 years at a club as big as Arsenal, And then when you get that call, that's for me, that just hurt so much because you could tell in his voice that there was a bit of pain in there about the fact that he had to move clubs. Fair play to him. He's gone on to Aston
he
Villa.
smashed it at Villa.
He's smashing it. The
Yeah.
one thing I didn't realise about Emi Martinez, if you watched him when he was coming out of the tunnel, the dude is absolutely built. He is a unit.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think there has to be something to be said for loyalty to a club. You know, you cannot use players. I feel wrong using players as a make weight to bring in, you know, the next best thing. Because let's say Mbappe comes in, he doesn't light up the world like he did for PSG, you know. And to be fair, if you're rapid and got a decent shot on you, you could make it in PSG and easily win the league there. You saw what happened when Di Maria stepped out of his comfort zone and went to United.
Oh yeah,
he did next to nothing. You saw what happened when Memphis Depay did the same thing. Stepped in, did nothing, went to France. Looks like £100 million transfer. Same with Falcao. So much. I remember that day there was so much press saying, "Oh, it's Radamel Falcao going to be playing for United. This is amazing." Scored 3 goals the whole season. went to Monaco, became a god.
Yeah,
you know. So I think Liverpool would be taking a. I'm going to be that guy. I'm going to play devil's advocate and say they would be taking a bit of a gamble on Mbappe. No question about his ability, but more the fact that, you know, there's always going to be a bigger club out there like your Bayerns, your Barças, and things like that they'll always try and turn his head with bigger offers. I think you keep Mo Salah where he is because not only is he, you know, consistent, he bangs in the goals, but he's loyal to the club. You know, if you saw what he did in his first season in terms of like charity work and things like that for justice in the city of Liverpool, you know, how many players do charity work unless they're told in their contract saying, okay, if you want this 200 grand a week, we're going to pay you. You got to do 10 visits to a children's hospital in a year.
Yeah. Might happen though if Mbappe, you know, it could happen.
No.
I want to just quickly before we run out of time, because we've only got 10 minutes left, so we'll spend, you know, a couple of minutes on this. It's only a real quick comment one. We ran out of time, so we can't go into this in more detail. But what do you make of the Chelsea women's boss? She slammed reports this week linking her with the Wimbledon job. Obviously, AFC Wimbledon currently don't have a manager, but she claimed that the club absolutely could not afford her. The Dons, who are on the hunt for a new manager since Glyn Hodges left the club by mutual consent. Chelsea are, by the way, they are leading the WSL and won the League and Cup double last season in women's football, even though they call it no, it's the Women's Super League, not the Women's Soccer League for some reason. Just misremembered it. But she is one of the best women's coaches, and I think 2 weeks ago we were chatting about her potentially getting a job in men's football. Maybe I think Liam said that maybe she should probably get the men's senior team job at Chelsea. Maybe, you know, as a speculation, because she'd done such a good job with the women's team that, you know, making her caretaker manager of the men's team may not be such a bad idea. But do you think it is insulting to women's managers that that if they are linked with a job, that it's lower down the pecking order, even though they might be at the top of the women's game? You know, if you're linked with a job, then you're at the bottom of the men's pecking order, even though you might be a fantastic manager. Hope Powell always comes to mind, the ex-England women's boss, as somebody that I thought would have crossed over into the men's game, but
yeah, I think the problem, the divide between women and men's football is, you know, they want to talk about it. There's always going to be the argument for equality in the game, and as soon as I say that, one player comes to mind, and that's Megan Rapinoe. The one who believes that, women and men footballers should be paid equal amounts, but then again, the revenue generated isn't the same. So you're, in the classic capitalist economy. I know you're a socialist, but you're paid what the market can afford to pay you, and therefore you're paid what you're worth.
Yeah.
I would say from my standpoint, if it were me, I would say I would take the job, because I would know that I'd be the first one to step across into the men's game. And if I got, say, AFC Wimbledon to the championship, so I remember her saying that a female manager stepping into the men's game, wouldn't be a step up. A fair argument, I wouldn't say anything about it being a step down in the men's division, but there is something to be said for being the first person to make that jump, because then you'll be the trailblazer that opens the doors to show women that they can do that. Because all I would say it would take is for the first female manager to do it. And you know what? I'd be 100% for it, of the female manager coming in, because she'll be setting a new standard. They're talking about equality, and they want to talk about equality in the game, and I don't want to say that she's kind of disrespected AFC Wimbledon in a way, but she kind of has.
Well,
She's disrespected them.
I will just go on to clarify further what she said, because she did come out again after that initial report came out, and she came out again just to clarify that what she was insisting is that after saying that AFC Wimbledon could not afford her, she's insisting it is not about money, but she is in fact in the best job for her in the world, which is the women's manager of Chelsea. Weirdly, by the way, if you want to know what links Chelsea and Chelsea women's team and AFC Wimbledon, is that Chelsea women's team play at AFC Wimbledon's old stadium, the King's Meadow. But other than that, so she wasn't trying to insult Wimbledon with that statement, but she did shut down the reports calling them an insult to women's football. But she did just say, she just clarified that she likes the job that she's in, so she doesn't want to really leave it, and then there's not enough money for her to ever leave. And I remember the only clubs that have ever made women managers of the men's team are mostly I remember a couple of French teams did it, and they got a lot of publicity, because you always get publicity with it. I can't remember who they are, but they were always lower league teams. They were never the top French teams, but I remember a couple of French teams have done it. But other than that, we're still waiting for the end of the Manchester United Everton game. Come manage Swindon Town.
Yeah. The thing is that they, as much as I'd say, like, obviously she said she can't afford to hire, it would be as much as they may not be able to pay you or like reflect your worth to the women's game in the men's game at the start, it would be a great starting move and a glass ceiling breaker for many other women to do it.
No way. No way. Dominic Calvert-Lewin on the 95th minute of the match. He's gone and done it. He's rescued a point for Everton. It's 3-3.
Yes!
It's 3-3. Jesus Christ. 95th minute. 3-3. Manchester United 3, Everton 3. He's gone and done it. Snatched a late goal in stoppage time. Sorry, pardon the interruption. Go on.
No worries. So I think if it would be, it'd be a great opportunity to set a new standard to say, look, women can cross over into the game, and then if she can show how well she can manage that team, because then if you look at it, even if you're a male manager, if you're first starting out in managing, your first proper team, your first proper football league team, there's no guarantee you're going to climb up the ladder. We said so ourselves earlier in the podcast. that
Yeah.
male, like ex-players in particular, people who should know the game inside out, don't usually make the best managers. I mean, you look at people like Sol Campbell and Jimmy Floyd Hasselbank have never managed beyond League One, sometimes League Two. So if you can set that standard for female managers to say, okay, I'll take this team and I'm going to do my absolute best with it. If she then can bring AFC Wimbledon, say, up to a mid-table championship team, then she can say about what she's worth to the game. I think, you cannot compare yourself to I'm trying to think of the phrase. You cannot compare yourself between two things that are not entirely the same. So if I say, so it'd be like if I applied for a job, it'd be, so take me, for example, I work for Metro Bank, yeah. And then I suddenly decided, you know what, I'm going to go work for Nationwide. And then Nationwide are like, cool. Yeah. And they'll be like, why do you want this job? And I was just like, because I'm a really, really, really good banker, But they're two separate things, I'd be, they'd view me as amazing by Metro Bank standards. But until I'd actually gone into Nationwide and demonstrated why I was viewed as positive as I was at Metro Bank, then I can't pull rank. I can't go in there and say, I got paid 23 or whatever it is at Metro Bank, and with you I want to be paid 25. Unless I can demonstrate that physically within that bank, it's a completely different company setup. It's a completely different line of products, completely different people, things like that. So that's not, that applies to all walks of life. You can't assume your worth to one facet of to like one side of the game when you've only demonstrated it in another. It's like I know she meant no disrespect to like AFC Wimbledon, but the opportunity is there for you to smash a glass ceiling and set a new standard in the game where probably more female managers will be encouraged to take managerial positions in men's football.
Yeah.
But rather than take the opportunity, you decide to say something that could be misconstrued as disrespectful to, let's be honest, a game that was pioneered by men and probably wouldn't be as big as it is without the men's game for the last 100 years or so.
I mean, I will say before the... I think it was, I can't remember whether it was during the First or Second World Wars, when the men went off to fight, women's football became to the forefront. And you'd get sellout matches. You would get sellout matches. So there was a demand. The problem was that then the FA went, well, this isn't a game for women. This is a game for men. So let's let the men play. And then they subsequently banned women's football until like the 70s, I think. It was very backwards. But there was a demand for women's football when all the men's players had gone off to war and to fight. There was a demand for women's football. And the women's that were working in the armament factories and things like that, they were playing. I think my great aunt played football, and she was not a great, she wasn't a fan of the game, but they did it as an activity afterwards, and you'd represent the works team, and you'd get about a couple of hundred people. Some of the big stadiums would be sold out with thousands of people watching women's football. So, there is a demand. There was a demand for it until the FA tried to kill it. Of course.
There is a massive demand for it. There is no doubt about it. But until someone comes across to the men's side of the game and can really shake the foundations of that game, break a lot of a fair few, I would say, very archaic traditions in the men's game. Like I think I remember the first game where there was the female lineswoman. It was her first game, and after that, Andy Gray got sacked for a comment.
I remember that. Yes, it was just banter. Yes, I remember that.
Yeah. So, if you're going to be I would say, be the first woman to step up into that role of being a manager, and then suddenly all this equality you're talking about, you make massive. It's a massive. It may not be a step up, in terms of your own personal development, but in terms of the avenues you open, the doors you open for other female managers to say, I've seen this manager do it. They've had success. I can do that. I'd be all for it. I mean, like, if I was a guy, even if I played Sunday League, you know, I would have no problem being, having orders barked at me by, a female manager. One of my old Sunday League teams, the manager who I played for, the guy there, his girlfriend was just as vocal on the touchline as she was, as he was. So, it makes no difference, and there shouldn't be anything that prevents her from doing it. I think she chose her words very poorly in saying that I don't think AFC Wimbledon could afford to hire me, and so you're left wondering, saying, but say that once you've had a season with them and you've got them into title contention or promotion chasers, say that afterwards. You've done a very small facet of a very wide multi-billion pound sport. So once you've tested everything, then you can talk about your worth to the game. That's my view.
World War One, by the way, it was when women's football got 53,000 in attendance, and it was banned in 1921. There you go.
That's amazing. They still managed to have a better attendance figure than Man City ever have.
And the banter is concluded. Thank you to my guest, Thomas Moore, this week. That was your Football Fan Show podcast for the 6th of February 2021. You have a great week. We will be back next weekend. Thank you so much. If you did watch the live stream, thank you so much. If you're just tuning into the podcast, thank you very much as well. And we will have a new episode next week. Come follow us on Twitter at TFFSLive, Facebook.com/The Football Fan Show. If you want to watch us live, the best place to follow us, Twitch.tv/The Football Fan Show, or search YouTube, The Football Fan Show Live, where we chop up the show. We bring it back to you in small little bites. Thank you so much for tuning in for this week's Football Fan Show podcast. We will be back next week. Have a great week.